Hey, welcome back to GroundZero Salem. As always, I'm your host, Pat. So it's been a busy past half a year for me. I haven't been making many videos because I've been busy, but I thought I'd do a good end of the year roundup. Not really a list. This is just a bunch of the stuff I've picked up that came out in 2024 since my mid-year roundup that I shot a while back. We are moving, so I am under the gun to just get this done. I wanted to shoot something before we packed up the U-Haul in a few days and headed back to New England. Who knows? Maybe this channel's title will be accurate once again. Notice things are kind of in disarray behind me.
This is really funky. It's like one big kind of empty room here. Yeah. Woo! All right. Okay.
I apologize for that. I'm still in the midst of whirlwind packing, but I thought I'd take half an hour to 45 minutes to talk about some other 2024 releases, some of my favorites, pretty much all the stuff that I've picked up. I mean, I haven't really been disappointed by anything. I don't really buy stuff unless I know I'm going to like it, so, you know. As far as an actual list, like a top 10 or top 20, it's going to be very sparse compared to what I did last year, which was like my favorite records from all these different microgenres, death metal, hardcore, grind, all that kind of stuff. It'd probably be just a all genres top 10 and probably just on Instagram or something. I might do that. We'll see. We'll see if I throw something together. But I wanted to talk about some LPs, overwhelming amount of hardcore on here. We got some metal too, and I'm also just going to cheat a little bit. I never really liked the whole talking about something without having a physical element to show off, you know, but there's a few things that I haven't gotten yet or that I'm holding off on buying physically until we move, so I'm going to pop on over to my BandCamp page and talk about some of the stuff that I've been enjoying digitally. So, kick things off. Here's a record I almost forgot that came out this year. I picked it up a while ago and kind of hadn't spun it in a little bit. Just gave it a spin. It's great. It had been a while since this band actually put anything out. Their last EP was, I want to say, 3 or 4 years ago. This is Armor from Florida. This is great, like stripped down hardcore punk stuff. Afraid of What's to Come is the name of the EP, 12-inch EP, obviously, on 11 PM Records. But yeah, this is rough, raw, straightforward hardcore punk. A lot of the newer stuff, I feel like a lot of the single syllable kind of hardcore bands lean heavily on like vocal echo and a lot of like a deliberately abrasive delivery with their overall sound. And if I'm remembering right, the first Armor EP was kind of like that. This kind of leans out of that a little bit. It's a little bit cleaner than a lot of contemporary hardcore punk stuff, but it is very catchy. You can hear some elements of, you know, Scandinavian hardcore in it, maybe a little bit, and even some like Oi and classic early 80s American hardcore punk, but it's great. Real rough, like growly, bellowy kind of vocals, not too dissimilar to Paul Bearer or somebody like that, you know, pretty tough sounding vocals. Then we've got the Life Abuse LP, 12-inch. I don't know what's with my voice, man. I'm sorry. I feel like I've been perpetually sick for months now. I'm just super froggy. And also, we're moving, we're packing, kicking up all kinds of dust and stuff like that. Systemization by Life Abuse, anyway. Came out on Armageddon. To me, this is an all-star lineup. To me, you've got Nate Wilson, who I've sung his praises plenty on this channel. Played in Devoid of Faith back in the day, Monster X, more recently Fright, many others, ran Gloom Records. Then you've got Mark Telfian, who is in a short-lived band called By the Throat. That might be one of my favorite one-off, just did a 7-inch bands ever. It's a combination of like guys from Devoid of Faith and Mark and the singer from Monster X, and it's just nasty. Like, I think it's still super cheap. You can find it. It's one of my favorite like Albany hardcore crust whatever kind of releases from the mid-90s. Mark also played in a ton of other bands. He played in Eucharist, which was another favorite of mine. He's got several other projects going right now, none of which are springing to mind because my brain is mush. But yeah, he's played a lot of great stuff. They're both playing guitar on this, I think. Then you've got Sean Duty, who was in Self-Defense Family a while back, also in Police Line, which was one of my favorite demos to come out of Albany in the 90s. And then Dan Barker, who had been in the Libyans. Dan's also played in a bunch of bands in the Boston area and used to live there. Used to hang out with the guy. Good guy. So anyway, all that aside, all the rigmarole, the members put to the wayside, Life Abuse is fantastic, fast hardcore with a lot of epic elements to it that don't overstay their welcome. It doesn't really lean into that kind of overly melodramatic stadium crust kind of thing that only Tragedy and a few select others were good at. I do feel like Life Abuse might kind of have some sonic similarities with classic 90s faster hardcore bands like One Word Death Threat and Talk Is Poison. There's just a lot of well-placed just arrangements and stuff like that. There's a few slow moments. You can tell they're kind of honoring the bands that they were in beforehand and some key influences on this kind of genre, like the very first Neurosis record, Pain of Mind. Just very dark, political, uncompromising, faster hardcore stuff. This is definitely a contender for Album of the Year for me. Every time I listen to it, I like it more and more. It's a great record. Then you've got the Life and Destruct split. I also feel like Destruct is kind of in a similar camp with Life Abuse, in that they take a lot of inspiration from hardcore throughout the years, especially from the 80s, from other countries, and have a kind of uniquely American kind of twist on it. I'd say they're kind of the descendants of bands like Talk Is Poison and One Word Death Threat. A lot of more emphasis on really heavy pounding toms in the drum work. Very, very fast. I've been lucky since I've moved to this area in the past 2.5 years. I've gotten to see Destruct because they're from nearby Richmond. I've gotten to see them live 3-4 times, and they always deliver super well. Seeing them and Scarecrow together numerous times has been a privilege and an honor. And on the flip with this, you've got Life. Life is a Japanese band. Got a bunch of records out. I think at least 2-3 LPs. I seem to remember Life's other stuff being a little bit more gloomy and crusty, kind of like a little bit more amoebic-y, but I could be wrong. I'll have to go back and listen to some of their stuff. I think a couple of their records in my distro still. On this, they kick up the tempo a lot. It's a lot more unrestrained, blazing fast, kind of crusty hardcore stuff. This came out on Desolate Records. This is fantastic. Great split LP. So let's switch over to something a little different here. The Wild Roses by the Ocean by Bad Molly. This is on a nice color. Family Night Records is the label. This is definitely a step in a different direction from what I've been talking about here, and I don't know exactly what to call it. I feel like saying something like alt country is like pretty reductive. Like there's a lot of folky elements on this, as well as some cowpunk, the Gun Club, that kind of stuff. But this is an area that I don't dip my toes in that much. One of the members is a very old friend of mine who plays electric mandolin and synthesizers on this, my friend Nick. And it sounds like the chief songwriter, Peter, passed away after this was recorded, which is sad. My condolences to people close with him. This is a beautiful record. It's very kind of haunting, like Western sounding. It's got sort of like a slack kind of rhythm to it at a lot of points. It's very, very cool, chill, like day off, Sunday, have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea kind of record. Then we've got Class, a healthy alternative. This is, I think if you want to be kind of simplistic about it, you could say this is like 77 punk, but I'd say that it has a lot to do with more like bands like The Boys and Eddie and the Hot Rods and stuff like that. That's a little bit more on the rock and roll side of things. It's got a lot of kind of upbeat, almost, I wouldn't say pogo, but kind of toe-tapping faster songs, but it's got a lot of kind of more mid-pace stuff as well. There's a good use of saxophone on it here and there. There's some keys on it that are pretty tasteful. It's just super catchy rock and roll. I can hear a significant influence from like some 70s glam on it as well. A lot of it kind of reminds me of the Buzzcocks in the more punkier moments. It's very, very good. I guess they've got a few other albums, a few of which a lot of people, or several people that I've talked to, say are even better than this one. So check that out if you're into punk. Then some reissues. Just talk about some nice vinyl reissues here. Obviously, this is stuff that came out years ago. Numero Group put this out. This is Universal Order of Armageddon's discography. Nice double LP, gatefold, thick, beautiful, beautiful reissue here on vinyl. Comes with a nice booklet. This was, I believe, Maryland area band that came out of Moss Icon, who were one of the pioneers of what was considered emo at the time. This is kind of discordant, off-kilter, hardcore punk stuff, occasionally melodic. A lot of different moments. You know, they've got some stuff that's almost kind of faster and more raging, stuff that's a little bit more simmering tempo-wise. But they're a great, great band. You know, if you like any of that, if you like stuff like Heroin and the Gravity record stuff and you haven't heard this, you really ought to do yourself a favor. They had a CD version of this on Gurn Blanston years and years ago, but it's nice to see this reissued on vinyl and to get the treatment it really deserves. Beautiful. Then I talked about the Nausea 2 EPs on 1 12-inch, I think on the last 2024, the mid-year one. I talked about it recently anyway. Svart Records has done it again and reissued Extinction. They've gone with the artwork from the poster on the inside. This has been fully remastered. It sounds incredible. Got that great John Jesse artwork in the center there. Yeah, if you know Nausea, this has really done it justice, especially because the old vinyl pressing, not all of them, but I think a certain number of pressings, I can't remember if it was the second or the third, the one that I had sounded like absolute shit. I think it was more of a physical thing with like the vinyl itself and surface noise or something, but I've read online that other people had that problem. I'm a weirdo and an obsessive when it comes to this band. I buy every version of the how many hours of music that they put out cumulatively, like 2 or something between all their EPs and demos and this LP. I have a bunch of different CD compilations, but this is the best sounding so far of Extinction, which is a masterpiece. You know, diving between dischargey fastness, diving between discharge speed and then occasionally lapsing into kind of simmering amoebic stuff. They really kind of put America on the map when it came to crusty hardcore, and you know, we're ambassadors for that scene amongst all the New York hardcore stuff, which I've mentioned before. But yeah, excellent. Svart Records always does great work, and they did a great job of this. Then Bucket Full of Teeth. This came out on Iodine Recordings. Also, I don't think it was that long ago that I talked about this band as well. This was a couple of the members of Orchid. Will Killingsworth, who produces and masters everything in hardcore, it sounds like, was involved with this. This band was great because they had that explosive scrams or screamo or whatever you want to call it kind of sound that was so prevalent throughout the 90s. This band was early 2000s. They put out 3 7-inches and an LP, or just a CD, a long player, all of which are collected on this. And the cool thing about them is they had that explosive kind of screamish? Yeah. I'm half screamish. This explosive screamo kind of thing with some grindcore elements, and also like lots of heavy, big, fat, kind of almost stonerish riffs, almost like moments that sound like Sleep or something like that, which is really hitting me right where I need it right now, because I'm just craving those big riffs. That's all the big old LPs. Got a couple of tapes here. My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me, a Instagram user that I talk to sometimes. If you want to have your finger on the pulse of everything that's going on with like noisy hardcore, and D-beat, and Mangle, and Kang, and all that Crasher Crust, all that kind of stuff. This guy's just relentless in everything going on with like noisy hardcore stuff. And he mentioned this not that long ago, and it's great. And they're local to me. I haven't seen them on any gigs. I'm sure they've played them, but they're from Durham, which is, you know, right next to Raleigh. This is my first time hearing about them. Sucks that I'm moving, because I would have loved to have seen them live. But it's awesome, faster, kind of Scandinavian-inspired hardcore stuff. Moments of it really remind me of Inepsy, and they're more punker, kind of faster moments, more Discharge than Motorhead. Moments kind of remind me of Wolfbrigade and Wolfpack, but it still maintains sort of a raw ferocity to it. there's, you know, a fair amount of Motorhead in there and Discharge, as you would expect. I've heard a lot of bands mix those elements before. It's one of my favorite, like, melanges of sounds that I like so much. But Pollute do it really, really, really well, like, exceptionally well. I think they're pretty young folks, too, so, like, good on them. It's great. It's an album-length cassette. So, as far as I know, it's only on tape right now. I'll put a link in the description. Hopefully somebody throws it on vinyl soon. That's just killer. Then you've got, finally, the full length from Vaticinal Rites, Cascading Memories of Immortality. British, I believe still 3-piece, death metal band. I got their EP a little while ago. I was in contact with one of their members. I believe their EP was on Caligari 2 or 3 years ago. And this is just well put together, well recorded, catchy death metal stuff. Kind of still has, I believe their last one as well had a little bit of kind of a tinge of thrash to it. I feel like that period in the late 80s where tech thrash kind of evolved into death metal, I feel like there's some James Murphy on this. I get some Disincarnate kind of vibes on it. Some of the riffs get like sort of a sharp melodic kind of execution towards the end of them. It's really well done. Great, super inhuman kind of vocals that contrast with the occasional moments of melody really well on it. Super enjoyable. Didn't check out too much death metal this year, but I feel like the handful of things that I checked out were very, very good. Also recommended to me by Mr. My Wife Will Kill Me, My Wife Is Going to Kill Me, was this Grave Filth. I love this. It's just like, you know, simply, crudely photocopied CDR in a slim case. Some stickers that just fell out. Just, you know, scrawled out marker. And that's the perfect presentation for this. Whether that's intentional for the rawness of this or they're just, you know, wanting to get something out there, it doesn't really matter. Band's from Florida, and again, not too far away from some stuff that I've heard before. There's been a lot more death metal kind of aping Autopsy in the past 5 to 10 years, you know, most well-known probably being Molder and some others. But this really has, I think part of it is the recording. I don't know what they did it on, if it's just like, it sounds like it could have been done on a Tascam or something like that. It sounds like a very organic analog recording on this, and I think that makes a lot of the difference. The music isn't perfectly on time, and I've been wanting that in my death metal for so long. I don't want my music to suck. Like, I don't want it to be falling apart necessarily, although I do like a lot of kind of sloppy JL America era death metal stuff, and demo quality stuff, Seraphic Decay and stuff like that when the bands were still getting their sea legs. But I like a lot of death metal more and more over the years. The death metal I do appreciate is the stuff that has way more of a kind of a punkish feeling to it. And this is just 3 tracks, and it's great because the songs are longer on this. Actually, let me do a little switch over here. Let's see the titles on this Grave Filth here. Rotting is the name of this, by the way. Yeah, first song is 6 minutes 48 seconds. Second song is 6:21. Then you've got this quicker little number here, 3:53. This is over. I mean, it's only 3 songs and it's only 15 minutes. But those, you know, nowadays, death metal songs over a couple of minutes take a little bit to impress me. And these are just super engaging, and you know, it's not overly blown out, cavernous, enveloping kind of stuff. It's more like raw, in your face, tension building, kind of slower, creepier death metal. It's great. All right, then we've got this Legions of Doom, The Skull. I was a little confused about this. I was like, is the name of it The Skull? Is it? I believe it's Legions of Doom, and the title of the CD is The Skull 3. This is a continuation of The Skull, which was Eric Wagner, after parting ways with Trouble's band. As you're probably aware, if you're a Doom fan, Eric passed away, 4 years ago now, something like that. This has one song with him still singing called Heaven, which is very prophetic. I don't want to screw up the lyrics here. Here I am where I said I'd be, standing in a place I think you should see, are the first lyrics on that, which is a little eerie, but it's a beautiful song. Sounds like classic Trouble when they started to go a little bit more psychedelic. Maybe Manic Frustration era when that kind of Strawberry Fields Forever Beatles influence kind of started to creep in. And the other vocalists on this are Scott Regers of St. Vitus and Carl, I never knew how to pronounce his last name correctly, Carl Agel, whatever, the guy who sang on Blind by Corrosion Conformity, the only album that he sang on that is one of my favorites, if not my favorite COC record. So this is a real treat for me. Carl sounds very different, a lot more nuanced, kind of trained, a lot more range with Carl's vocals on this. Scott Regers sounds amazing on this as well, and it's just great heavy doom, classic traditional doom stuff in the vein of what the Skull was doing before, which was very similar to classic era Trouble. So if you like classic era Trouble, you should definitely check out that one. The new Satan, Songs in Crimson. I hadn't checked in with Satan in a while. I mean, since they got back together, I've given all their records a listen, and I mean, it's just really solid heavy metal. I feel like they've gotten more accolades since they've reformed, since their original run, when they did Court in the Act and all that back in the early 80s. This is just well put together, fast, aggressive, new wave of British heavy metal kind of stuff. I saw a few people online, because I always kind of skim the reviews to see what other people think of this stuff. I saw a few reviews online, I think I was looking at the archives or whatever, that were critiquing this for being poorly produced. To me, it sounds better than their last couple of records. Everything always sounded good. I feel like they always got the simplicity of the recording that the music deserved right. Nothing was too polished sounding, but I always felt like some of their other records that came out since their reformation kind of were sort of brick-walled. I find that a lot, getting annoyed with like the bigger, anything that I pick up on the bigger metal labels like Season of Mist or Metal Blade or anything. I feel like a lot of those people producing those records need to turn down everything being so maxed out. And I feel like this is still a little maxed out sounding, but it's a lot less than the other ones. I'll have to go back. I haven't listened to those other records in a while. They're all very good, very powerful sounding, just straightforward, mid-paced to fast, heavy metal stuff, clean, kind of soaring vocals, edging onto almost speed metal territory in certain moments. Awesome. We've got this Fireblood, Hallelujah. This I just checked out on a whim like the other day, maybe last week or the week before. This is a local to me, well, Charlotte, which is a couple hours away. Charlotte area sludge band. The cover art is very, very Mark Riddick looking, although I don't think it's his artwork. You would think that this is probably like some kind of OSDM band, but that is not the case. This is great southern sludge stuff with a heavy groove to it. Easily could be some New Orleans kind of stuff, which I've been feeling that stuff lately. Vocals are a little bit tougher sounding. I almost feel like the vocalist could be the singer in like a metallic hardcore band or something like that, but it really works for this style really well. The new Wolfbrigade, Life, Knife, Death. I don't know. I like it. This also came out on Metal Blade along with the Satan. I like it. It's good. You're not going to be missing anything if you're a Wolfbrigade fan with this. You're not going to feel like you've been cheated of anything, but I think after the Enemy Reality, the last full length that came out a few years ago on Southern Lord, more than a few now, might have been like 4 or something like that. That record was just so perfect. It was such a magnum opus for this band, even later in their career. They've been around since the late 90s, I think. This is great, Swedish D-beat based hardcore stuff with tiny elements of like death metal here and there, and thrash and classic heavy metal thrown in, good melodies and riffing and all that kind of stuff. I just feel like all those songs on that last record had their own identity defined so well and were so catchy. This is great. It's not going outside of anything that Wolfbrigade has done before, but it's just a very solid Wolfbrigade album, whereas the last one was a total butt kicker, Then we've got, I'm going to be careful with this, Black Magic Rituals and Perversions, Volume 1 by Electric Wizard. E-Wizzy, if you will. This is like a live best of. It was recorded in 2020. I'm assuming this was some kind of COVID recording get-together kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe it was broadcast live at some point, streamed on YouTube. I don't know. I don't seem to remember that, but they recorded this around that time. So there was a lot of stuff going on like that during the pandemic. And it's basically just a really good sounding best of Electric Wizard material. They open with Dope Throne. You got Black Mass on here, Witch Cult Today, Satanic Rites of Drugula, Chosen Few, Funeralopolis. Bunch of the hits. A lot of them are considerably clearer sounding than the studio recordings. You can actually kind of decipher what's going on in the music a little bit better than the original recordings. So that's kind of appealing to me, because one of the biggest detractors for me when I first started listening to Electric Wizard, and this is going back a decade and a half ago, was like, what is even going on through all that fuzz and stuff? Now I've trained my ear. It's an acquired taste. I can appreciate Dope Throne and They Live and all that, We Live and all that kind of stuff a lot easier. But to me, going from stuff that was kind of fuzzy, like early Cathedral or St. Vitus, to something that was just so blown out sounding, kind of like a lot of the noisy D-beat stuff that's like heavily soaked in reverb and maxed out and fuzzy. It's an acquired taste. So this is a little bit of a tamer, friendlier approach, but also it's great recording. One could say it sounds better than some of the records. Perfectly played live. So yeah, definitely a pickup if you're a fan of Electric Wizard. I'd say even a good introduction to them if you weren't familiar with them before. But covering up the boobies. And then finally we got Songs of a Lost World. Last CD I'm showing by The Cure. New Cure record. First Cure record in like 15 years or something like that. And I'm with most other people. I've seen mostly positive stuff online about this. I think there's a few Facebook, I might not like a Facebook Cure group or two that a few like real gatekeepy type people are poo-pooing this. I think it's fantastic, and to be honest, I'm way more of a happy Cure songs kind of person. I love Cats. I'm more of the standing on a beach singles kind of person. In Between Days, I like the Head on the Door a lot. I like the really early material. I do like Pornography and Disintegration. Fine. I think they're fine records, but I'm so ADHD that I kind of zone out halfway through those albums. This is certainly more in the vein of their sadder stuff, but it's so well crafted that it's kept me enwrapped the entire time, especially End Song, this long sad number that's just beautiful. I think that's really what makes this so great, and all of their material that is not so happy and positive, is that it's depressive, but it is just gorgeously written. The lyrics are perfect. Robert really did a good job with this one. I'm happy to see this be so successful, and a band so late in their career just blowing up again. It's wonderful. All right, so let me do this. I'm going to talk about a few things on BandCamp here. Zip on over here. So, as you can see, there's some stuff that I already talked about. Pollute class, Fireblood. This new Deceased, very good. I've only listened to it like once. I just bought it like yesterday. It's great. It's Deceased. You're not going to be disappointed by them putting out a funk record or something like that. It seems a little bit more sprawling than the last one, that Ghostly White record. Obviously, they've gotten a lot more into the kind of storytelling, kind of invoking the influences of like King Diamond and stuff like that. They've always had that. King Fowley's always done that, but it seems like he's really hitting a streak with doing that exceptionally well in the past couple of records. Children of the Morgue is further exploring that territory. It's a pretty long one. It's like 55 minutes, but yeah, super epic, great, haunted, classic heavy metal inspired death metal like you've come to expect from those guys. Then you've got this, The Watcher, full length. I'm going to wait till Boston till I pick up a copy of this. This includes several members from Malleus, who were that black metal band. I talked about them last year. They were on one of my albums of the year, I think, for black metal that I spoke about. This is some of the members going on and doing way more of a straightforward heavy metal project. This is very new wave of British heavy metal inspired. Certainly if you like Satan, this would go well as a pairing with it. If you're going to pick up a couple of CDs, a couple of records, whatever. Pagan Altar, stuff like that. This has a lot of like pretty upbeat moments. There's a few kind of epic moments going on with it. It's got a good like straightforward kind of feel. They're not trying to do a retro production quality. It's got a very big, loud, clear production, not overproduced by any means though. Great kind of soaring, clear vocals. I can't put my finger on who the vocalist reminds me of. I want to say the guy from Diamond Head, but it's been so long since I've listened to Diamond Head. But it's those kind of vocals that aren't too operatic, but are still very clear and melodic. It fits that whole early 80s British heavy metal thing really well. Just super well done heavy metal stuff. We'll go back here. I talked about all this. Oh, of course. Possibly my album of the year. Up there with the Life Abuse. Lifeless Dark. Forces of Nature's Transformation. These folks are known as sort of a Sacrilege UK worship band. I think that's doing them a disservice. They definitely sound a lot like Sacrilege. Don't get me wrong. They got the squealies. They got the squealies used by Sacrilege that were later kind of borrowed by Bolt Thrower. The riff style is perfect for emulating Sacrilege's best work. I think the key thing to being a really good band that's honoring a specific artist and doing your take on them is understanding their influences, though. And you can hear a lot of the stuff that went into influencing Sacrilege. You got a lot of the early Metal Blade stuff, particularly early Trouble and Slayer. You've got, of course, Discharge, Verukers, whose a few members ended up in Sacrilege, that kind of stuff. And as the album goes on, it's front-loaded with like a lot of like gratuitous kind of Sacrilege worship. As the album goes on, it gets a lot more varied, I noticed. Again, pretty fresh to my ears. This just came out, so I've spun it 3 or 4 times. I think it's a fantastic release. It's very, very good. Highly recommended. I'm going to leave links to everything I talked about, obviously, like I always do. But if you're looking for some great, like, grimy, kind of punk-inspired thrash stuff, if you like Sacrilege and some other stuff like Antisect, maybe, there's a few other things you could maybe point to. Check it out. CC, the guitarist, played in Magic Circle and many other bands, a lot of good hardcore bands. Ryan's a drummer that's been in tons and tons and tons of Boston hardcore bands. Notably, Blank Stare was my favorite. He's been in a lot of other ones that probably people know before I mentioned that, but Blank Stare was great. I want to say half of the members of this band are also in the band Innocent, who are way more of a straightforward sort of like raw punk D-beat kind of band that are also really good. Maybe closer to like the Sacrilege demos than the Sacrilege LPs, but very much their own thing, kind of Scandinavian influence too. Also worth checking out. Then finally we've got Festergore. This is awesome death metal. I saw them open for Deteriorate. Made it out of the house about a month and a half ago. Go to Charlotte to see Deteriorate. Long-standing death metal guys originally from Jersey that have been living in this state for quite a while now. They were fantastic. I didn't know anything about Festergore. They're a bunch of dudes from Long Island. Staten Island, very important distinction. Sorry, guys. Staten Island. Had a great, just really fun stage presence, and were just a blast to see live. So as soon as this came out, this hadn't been out yet by the time I met these guys and saw them live. I told myself I got to pick this up. And this is just fantastic, well done death metal stuff. You know, these guys are from Staten Island. They're not doing like a New York style kind of slammy, brutal death metal thing, but you can't really say that maybe some of that hasn't kind of filtered through influence-wise either. If anything, I were to mention as a New York influence, I'd say like very early Immolation maybe, just because they have that sort of maze-like Morbid Angel first Immolation record sort of complexity to them. But none of it is just for the sake of that. There's a lot more kind of catchiness to it. The vocals are great, super monstrous sounding. Just really well done classic style death metal. I couldn't be happier with having this and the new Vaticinal Rites right next to each other, and that kind of being and the Grave Filth as the three death metal things that I've really picked up this year that totally satisfies my needs for death metal. I'm good with all that. So, okay, so that's it. That is done. Not sure. Hopefully this will be something I can wrap up and put under your tree. Little gift of a Christmas update for you. If not, it's going to be at you by the new year, but you won't know this until you're watching me saying this, so I don't know why I'm saying this. You know me. I'm not good with wrapping up videos. But, yeah, that's it for now. Who knows? I'm going to be in an apartment while we're looking for a house up there. That's going to be at least a couple months. I don't know if I'm going to be making videos. I'm going to be working a lot, so you might not see me for a long time. That's just the way the cookie crumbles, you know. And even when I do have time, I'm like, do I want to make a video or do I want to hang out with my kid and play video games, you know? We'll see. We'll see how things go. Share this around, you know, like, subscribe, all that crap. Have a good, safe, and happy holiday, everyone. Later.